Hi, I'm Jennifer Zielinski, guest hosting for Republican Roundtable. Today, Max Reimer is out. We are deep in the 2022 election here, and we have three great candidates from Minnesota Senate District 42, which is Plymouth, Medicine Lake, and a little bit of Maple Grove. I'd like to welcome to the show Paul Hillen, running for Senate. We have Jackie Schroeder, running for House in 42B. And we have Kathy Burkett, running for House in Minnesota's 42A. Had to get that right.
Right on.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, great to be here.
Good. And then one question we always like to ask is, who are you and why are you running for office? And I will start with Paul, running for Minnesota Senate.
Well, thanks, Jen. It's great to be here. My name is Paul Hillen, and I'm running for District 42 State Senate. I'm a 21-year resident of Plymouth. My wife Karen and I raised all four of our kids in Plymouth, Minnesota. It's a great place to live. I'm a 36-year business professional, both in corporate America. I also started my own small business and currently run a business today. I also have volunteered in the community for a couple of decades with youth, seniors, and the disabled. And I'm also the author of a leadership book called How Goodness Pays. The reason that I'm running is, we moved in 21 years ago into Plymouth, and it's just not the same Plymouth that it was before. And as I've always told my kids, that if you've got a problem, you can spend time complaining about it, and after 15 minutes you still have the problem. Or you can spend that same time and look towards a solution, and you'll be a little bit closer to it. So I've certainly been thinking that our state needs to be turned around for at least the last 15 years, so it's time for me to jump in. And I also looked and I noticed that the DFL candidate had just moved into the district 3 months earlier. And I thought, we just cannot allow somebody who has not invested in Plymouth, hasn't lived in Plymouth, to just come in and represent Plymouth. We need somebody who really knows Plymouth, and I've invested my time, talent, and treasure in the community, and I really want to represent the folks from Plymouth in the state capitol.
Thank you so much, and thanks for stepping up to the plate. Jackie, who are you and why are you running for office?
Who am I? I'm Jackie Schroeder, and I'm running to be the next representative in District 42B. I'm a former small business owner, and I've been married to my husband for 26 years. We've raised 7 children, and we have 3 grandchildren. Why am I running? Because I love the state of Minnesota, and I've loved raising my family here. But the Minnesota we see today is not the same state it was or has been. Violent crime, inflation is through the roof, and the way we educate our children needs some serious attention. And I am running to be part of the solution. We can do better, and we must do better. So that's why I'm running.
Again, thank you for stepping up. It takes a lot to be a candidate. Kathy, who are you and why are you running for office?
Well, I am Kathy Burkett, running in 42A, which is mostly Plymouth, but a little bit of Medicine Lake and just a piece of Maple Grove. I've lived in the school district for over 50 years. My folks moved here in about 1962. And so I started school at Oakwood Elementary and went all the way through the Wayzata School District. My parents still live in Plymouth, and we raised our boys in the Wayzata schools and in Plymouth. So I guess I've been in Plymouth for about 30 years total. And when we first moved here, it was the village of Plymouth, and so now it's the city of Plymouth. But things have changed, and so why am I running? Yep, things have changed, and as I explained to other people, when we were growing up, we didn't necessarily have to lock our doors, but now you lock your doors even when you're inside. The crime has changed, the schools have changed, and we're dealing with an economy that is not okay and is damaging so many people. So I guess that's pretty much it. I jumped in with both feet, and you know what? I can't take it anymore. I mean, from the standpoint, it's not okay. Things are not okay. So I'm going to do my utmost to make a change.
Exactly. You can either sit back and complain, or you can step in and take the race, and thank you again for stepping up to the
Oh,
plate.
you bet. You bet.
And as you guys are talking to voters, as you're getting out there, what are some of the big issues that you're hearing about, some of the issues that you're running on, but you're hearing that are just important to voters? I'll start with you, Paul.
Yeah, well, it's probably not a surprise, but the first is clearly inflation and the cost of living. Is people are feeling it tremendously, and I hear that from just about everybody I talk to. Second issue is crime, and especially in the western suburbs. Crime is up, over 40% in the Twin Cities, and in Plymouth it's up nearly 30%. And so that's a big issue. Worrying about whether or not you're going to be carjacked going to Target, which we've had some carjackings in Plymouth, or worrying whether or not your house is going to be broken into, that's just not okay. And crime is not only a physical issue where you feel threatened, but it's also a mental health issue. You just can't live every day worrying about that. And then of course, schools. Schools are critical to all of our families, and 45% of students in Minnesota are not proficient at math at grade level, and 40% can't read at grade level. And so we have a significant issue, and it's fast approaching in our schools out in the western suburbs. And so those are three issues that people are very concerned about.
Jackie, Kathy, are you hearing anything else or major issues, or are those some of your platform policies too you're really running on?
Well, I'll jump in here, Jen.
Okay.
So I'm knocking at the doors every night. It's actually the favorite part of the campaign for me, because everybody has a story. And what I'm hearing out there at the doors is people are considering moving. Good Plymouth residents, I hear it every day and a number of times a day. We're considering a move. We're going to see what happens this November and make our decision. And it is based on crime. A lot of it is based on crime and education and the cost of living. But in Plymouth particularly, they're concerned of crime. And how sad is it, Jen, that these Plymouth residents that love our community would be considering a move like that? So I, like my counterparts, want to make a difference in that area. And it really comes down to common sense. If we want to tackle the crime issue, we need to support our police. And unfortunately, my opponent has voted for cities to defund their police. So really, it's a matter of answering and asking some common sense questions. How do we get beyond this? We do the common sense thing. We support our police.
Absolutely. And Kathy, are there any other issues that you're running on? I know education has been important to you. We've touched on crime and safety and economy.
I'll just say a little bit more about the crime and in the schools. When it comes to the crime, I'm actually hearing stories about how people have been victimized. So it's really come close to home for people. There was one gal that had two specific instances. It was really very frightening for her. One was, it was at the Mall of America, and somebody wanted to nab her. And less than 2 weeks later, she had the same type of experience. It was a two-man operation over at the Plymouth Target. The thing is that it's right here. Even our own home, our home was broken into. It's not okay what's going on. And our police, we need them to understand that they are supported and in ways that they need. And one of those, and it's not just here, but the challenges for whether it's Plymouth or Minneapolis is that we need to make it a job that people want to have. When it comes to the defunding, as they've talked about here, that doesn't work. And we want to be able to bring in good candidates. And how do we do that? So that's what I would support, is figuring out how we can bring in good candidates for our police department.
Jackie, you've talked about supporting our police as we work to fight this issue of crime. And this issue is near and dear to your heart. Can you expand on that, please?
It is, Jen. I have a stepson who is a Minneapolis police sergeant. So we have a very unique perspective on how the need is for not only funding the police department, but the moral support that our law enforcement heroes need. they need to know that we have their backs.
Yeah, and it's important, and I think that is why the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association has endorsed me. I'm the only candidate endorsed for District 42 Senate. Jackie is the only candidate endorsed for 42B for House. And Kathy is seeking the endorsement because they know we need law and order candidates.
Exactly right.
And it's a step toward solving that issue. And would you like to touch more on that? You look like you
Well,
had some-
I want to touch a little bit on the inflation piece, and you had asked what are we hearing. And I had somebody approach me. I was in Cub parking lot, and it was somebody I had coached their kid in hockey in youth, and I ran into her, and I hadn't seen her for probably 5 years, and she said, Paul, when did gas and groceries become a luxury? Why is that suddenly okay? And if you think about it, and what can the three of us do about that, Minnesota is annually one of the top 10 tax states. We have one of the highest gas taxes in the United States. Our income tax, our sales tax, our property taxes are all high, typically around top five in the nation. And the other piece is we are one of 12 states that taxes Social Security benefits. Why, with record high inflation, are we taxing our senior citizens who have worked their whole lives just to enjoy retirement? We have a 9.3, soon to be close to a $10 billion surplus, and we continue to tax seniors, and we continue to have some of the highest taxes in the state. Why are we doing that? That's something that the three of us will work to change.
Exactly, and it looks, we hear about the surplus that we have at the state all the time. What would you guys do to really just bring that tax code down a little bit and down into something that makes sense?
Well, I'll jump in on this one. I think that a lot of people don't realize that the number 2 employer in the state of Minnesota is the state of Minnesota, and then third largest employer is the federal government. You put those two together, the largest employer is the government. What we need to do is reduce that. And I believe in smaller government. I believe in self-governance. And there's too much overlap, there's too much waste, and there's too much fraud. And I think that we need to we've been taxed enough already. We need to reduce the government.
How can we rein in that power?
Yep,
That's
that's
way
right.
too overbearing.
Yep.
And Jackie, do you have something to add to that, or?
I would just say, let's give the badge of being the 5th highest income tax state to somebody else. We need to be more competitive with our neighboring states, and we need to give the hardworking Minnesotans that earn this surplus money back to them in permanent tax relief, period.
Especially when I hear about people moving to South Dakota, just trying to get out of Minnesota. They might still work here, but they move to South Dakota just to avoid all those taxes.
I've got friends that have done that, moved out of state.
Well, and one of the critical elements of that in this state is I'm a small business owner, as I mentioned, an entrepreneur, and the high income taxes prevent or slow the growth of small businesses. I've been endorsed by the NFIB, the small business organization, and one of the critical things that they're dealing with right now are two things. One is taxes, as we discussed. The other is that government is way over-regulating them. Starting a new business as an entrepreneur is extremely difficult. So we need to reduce the regulations, which we can do in the state capitol, and we need to reduce taxes. As Jackie said, there's no reason that we should be a top 5 tax state with that type of surplus. And so those are two things we need to do to have a far more vibrant and growing economy.
Absolutely. As I've heard from others, it's just something that's difficult to get in that business niche and start something, even if it's a small, like, sauce industry she wanted to start up, or a friend wanted to do that, or something. Just being able to start that in the state is impossible, and we're not growing our economy. We're seeing people leave our state at this point. And you all have lived in Plymouth for quite a long time. It sounds like almost over 15 years, or each of you have been there for a while. Tell me something about your district.
Well, the people are great. And I've seen the change, and so I talked about at the beginning that it's not the same Plymouth that I moved into. And that's positive. It's not all negative. There's a lot of positivity there. I mean, the diversity in Plymouth is tremendous. I mean, we have really grown, and there are a lot of different points of view, a lot of different ethnic backgrounds, and a lot of different industry, a lot of diversity of industry. And so it's a really vibrant place, which is why it's a shame that we're now dealing with crime, we're dealing with higher taxes. And so that's why we want to get, the district back to where it was. But the people are tremendous, and there's really a lot of positive about how well it's grown and the types of people that have moved out to Plymouth.
I would say that we do have some excellent private schools in Plymouth too. So I am a homeschool mom, a public school mom, and a private school mom. So I've really lived the gamut of the different schooling options. So I am very grateful for Plymouth having what I believe one of the best private schools that there is. So Plymouth is wonderful for that in my district. And we have some beautiful green spaces too, which is very nice.
And for me, what do I see in Plymouth? As I've said before, there's been a lot of change, and I often say change is not a bad thing, but some change is not so good. But in Plymouth, it's really home. It's stomping grounds. It's a place for people to grow and enjoy their families, and there's so much there between the schools and the green spaces. 40-some parks we have. But in Plymouth, we have people that truly love being here. There is a sense of gratitude. There is a sense of community. There is a sense of responsibility. And what I see there are people that are frustrated with how things are going. But Plymouth has been a wonderful place to live. It's just become more of a challenge. So what it is, I think it's community that I see from Plymouth over the years.
We should also mention we have some great lakes.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
going to say that too.
Yeah.
We have to remember Medicine Lake, of course, right, which is in our district, and Parker's Lake and Bass Lake, and yeah, so we have some great recreational stuff. We don't need to go to,
Please.
we don't need to always go up north. We have some great spots.
I actually like going out to the park around Medicine Lake. It's so great. You can explore it, probably spend a couple hours there if you let yourself.
Fishing is good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm door knocking, I'm discovering places I never knew really existed. It's actually extremely fun to do that. And if I'm knocking on a door, and literally you will see the backside of a lake that I didn't know it was there before. So it is a great point. We have beautiful lakes in Plymouth.
And as you're door knocking, as you're talking to residents, we have seen Plymouth go from Republican district to a more Democrat, maybe a purple district. How are you talking to voters to telling them to say, hey, the Republican Party hasn't left you, we will fight for you in St. Paul? How are you convincing them to come back to the Republican Party or vote for Republican this election? I'll start with you, Paul.
Okay. Well, I think it's pretty easy. It's common sense issues, and a lot of people really want to return to common sense as they think that we've swung way too far to one end of the continuum. And so we talk about the common sense issues because education, crime, inflation, those impact everybody. And when we talk about our plan, exactly what we're going to do, reduce taxes, help with supply chain, so that helps the inflation piece of it. From a crime standpoint, we need to end arrest and release policies. Crimes have to have consequences. The criminals need to be held, and especially juveniles. I met with our chief of police, and he told me that most of the crimes that are being committed in Plymouth are juveniles because there's a policy where you can't hold juveniles overnight. So the same kids are coming back and back and back and committing similar crimes. And then education. Everyone is very, very concerned about the declining proficiency rates in the state. And at the doors, they're very concerned that that's going to start to permeate in our schools. And we have 4 different school systems in our district. And some of the school districts are really struggling with some of their proficiency rates. And we need to address that. That's critical. And so we're hearing a lot of that, that we have an imbalance in our schools. And we need to have great education for all kids, not just some of the kids, but for all kids.
I think Paul said it great the other day too when we were at an event. A great way to remember this is, what do you get with the Republicans if you elect a Republican, one of us? Lower, lower, higher. Lower taxes, lower crime, and higher test scores. I think that's a great way to remember it.
And that resonates with everybody. Who doesn't want that? Do you want higher crime, higher inflation, and lower test scores? No.
I'm really
that's
hoping there's no voter that wants those.
That's not a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. That's a common sense issue, all three of those.
Well, all I can do is really echo what both of them have said here. I do think that the focus needs to shift back to the basics. We have gotten away from that on too many fronts within our school district. So to bring that shift back there, but also I think that it's important for us to bring back the American values. We're missing those. And I don't know, the patriotism that goes along with that. We need people in our schools, we need our people, our own people, to find that within themselves again. Find the love for this country, the gratitude towards this country, the understanding that we need to, we're on the brink, and we just need to rein that all back in and just embrace our children with understanding that this is a great place to live. This is a wonderful place to live. We just need to bring back those American values.
Jen, you know, one of the things that Ronald Reagan said when he was speaking about the Hispanic community is he said, "You're Republicans, you just don't know it yet." And you had asked, you know, how do we bring people back to the Republican Party? And what I'm learning is that as we talk about these issues, people say, yes, of course, I want lower crime. I want lower cost of living. I want better schools. And that's how we need to discuss it with them. And so then as we talk to people, that when you have initial discussion with them, you think, okay, they're kind of leaning Democrat. And at the end of the conversation, they say, well, that makes perfect sense. You have my vote. And so that's what we need to do, is that things that are important to people and highly relevant to them, is we just simply need to discuss those issues, and importantly, what we'll do about it. And a reminder that the other party is the party that got us into those problems. So we're the ones with the solutions to help us get out of them.
We need to have some new solutions, and it sounds like you guys are all coming up with that. Touching on education, as you're speaking with parents, have you been able to connect with teachers as well who are supporting this? Are they, you know, fighting against this, or are the teachers really just, hey, we need change in our schools?
So I can start here, Jen. In my door knocking, I've met a couple different people, several teachers, and a previous administrator actually that came from California, and now she's running for school board. And what I've heard is in the schools, there's a lack of discipline in the schools. Not only are we not focusing on academic achievement like we need to be, but there's also a lack of discipline in the schools. And there's frustration from these teachers that they're not able to really demand that discipline from the students. So we need to take control of that, make sure that discipline is there. But we also need to focus on real academic achievement. We need to let go of the activism and the ideologies that are being forced upon these kids and let them learn, because they can learn if they're given the chance to do so. So we need to put that focus back on reading, math, science, history, instead of any ideologies that are in our schools right now.
Kathy, are you hearing anything different, or?
You know, I hear a lot of the visiting that I've done so far has been in public spaces. So I don't know who I'm talking to. And I get both sides of it, but really I again echo what's being said here, is that we need to just bring it back to the basics, and the focus, they're being redirected all over the place to anything but the basics. And we just need to have the courage and take responsibility for our children's education. That needs to go back to the parents. I mean, the mamas out there, they know what's right, they know what's wrong, down in their gut. And I think that when it comes to this next election, it's really going to be about the moms in our district. I think the mothers understand better than a lot of us want to give credit for, that they know deep down what's going on is not okay. So I do believe that when it comes to this election, it's going to be the mothers that are going to have the largest impact with all of this. So echo, yeah, moms. So
We would have a great team if you guys get into St. Paul and can really just fight for these common sense policies with education, crime, and the economy.
Yeah. Well, my mother was a teacher. I have two sisters who are a teacher, although they're both retired right now. And my daughter is a child care teacher. So I'm surrounded by teachers, right? And I think all of us would say, I mean, what would we do without our teachers, right? Wonderful people that devote their lives to educating our kids. And as Jackie said, we hear a lot of frustration at the doors. And we've talked to a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, superintendents. And there is quite a bit of frustration. As Jackie said, the discipline issue is really important, is that if they were allowed to discipline kids a little bit more, we need to get back to teaching literacy at every grade level. That's a big issue that we have, right? Why 40% of Minnesota kids can't read. And then we need to teach the basics in math is really what's critical. And so they want to get back to that. All the teachers that I've spoken to want to get back to those basics. And one said to me, you know, Paul, we need to leave the parenting to the parents. We need to leave raising children to the parents and let us just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that they're being asked to teach so many other things that are diverting their time from teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. And there's not one teacher that I talk to that is not for transparency in the curriculum. Is that we kind of think, we hear that, well, maybe they're not interested in opening the doors and having people look at what they're teaching. Every teacher I've talked to said, that's wonderful. We want a partnership with parents. And so in a lot of cases, they're not allowed to do that. And so that's what we're hearing, or what I'm hearing from teachers, is that those are the things that are important to them.
Perfect. And as we end our segment here, I'm just going to ask each of you to, say a couple last thoughts, and how can voters get a hold of you or reach you or find out more about you?
Yeah. Well, you can go to my website, which is Hillen for Senate, and that's FOR. HillenForSenate.com is where you can go, and would love some volunteer help, and however anybody wants to get involved would be wonderful, because I am committed to the citizens of District 42. I'm a 21-year resident. Would love to be the representative.
Thank you.
So my website is Jackie4MN, JackieFORMN.com. And again, I would love them to visit my website to find out more about me and how I plan on being part of the solution. And I do tell people in my district, if they know any friends or family in the district, just to tell them this: if things seem wacky, vote for Jackie.
And for my website, it's KathyForMN.com, KathyForMN.com. And when it comes to this election, I want people to understand that there are a lot of wedge issues out there that people are trying to divide us, when really we all want to be a country together. I don't want us to lose our sovereignty, and I don't want these wedge issues to become what takes our country down. So I am here for everybody. I want what's best for our country. I want us to remain a sovereign nation.
Thank you to all three of you for appearing on Republican Roundtable. And again, thank you for running, Paul, Jackie, and Kathy.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Republican Roundtable. I'm Jennifer Zielinski. Until next time.